Chief Marketing Officer Jeff Larson is back, and this time we're tackling some of the biggest questions marketers face. When do you pivot versus stay the course? How do you market through uncertainty? And what metrics matter most in the C-suite? From leading Disney's in-house creative agency to launching massive campaigns for global brands, Jeff is sharing the lessons he's learned along the way. If you haven't already, make an old-fashioned or your favorite cocktail and enjoy another episode of Marketing Over Bourbon. Jeff, welcome back. Thank you for coming again to the show. It's great to have you back. So cheers.
Cheers. Pleasure to be back.
Thank you. I'm a Woodford person. I know you love Angel's Envy as well.
Oh, yeah.
And many different things.
And many different things.
Right. I believe today is another Basil Hayden.
Okay. This is beautiful.
Because actually your answer last time you were here.
Yeah, I was
if you were a bourbon.
I was going to be Basil.
And there you go. All right. So sticking with that. Okay. So we were
said because it's a cool name.
Be the brand, Jeff. Be the brand. Okay.
Right.
Let's dive into first consumer insights and utilizing them. What's the role that you see consumer insights playing in terms of building out marketing strategies?
Central. It's absolutely central to what you're going to do. So if you can understand your consumer, understand what motivates them, what makes them tick, why they would be engaged with this brand. I mean, that's everything. So really, I think interrogating the consumer vis-a-vis your brand is central to the success. Then you're talking to the right people and you're speaking to them in a way that motivates them.
Right, and tailoring your message if it's a targetable channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Crisis marketing. I shared with you a story when I was working for a regional bank in Florida that they didn't have a crisis marketing plan. And so as we were having a hurricane coming through, we had to put together the entire soup to nuts in every channel. What's the right message at the right time for what was happening with the bank closure and so forth. You've probably seen many, many different things, either during an economic downturn or disruptions in industries. How did you maintain momentum as well as trust with the consumers in a time of crisis marketing?
You know, the examples that come to mind, and probably the one that comes back sharpest, if you will, was when we had all the hurricanes rolling through Florida. And so, you know, we just had, within Disney parks, we had a communication tree, and it was really important to know, all right, you know, if the weather was going to disrupt people's ability to visit the parks, or frankly, just was a tragedy in people's lives that you didn't want to be around, you know, our response had to be like, get out of the media. Like the last thing you want to do is have people, you know, going through a troubled time, a tragic situation, and then bringing your Disney ad in on top of that.
Yes.
Especially when it was completely irrelevant in the sense that, you know, obviously the park wasn't going to be open, you know, if that sort of thing happened. So we had a tree. It was back in the days of BlackBerries. I remember writing entire, you know, memos on my BlackBerry. You know, it's like wearing out my thumbs at the time. So this is obviously dating it, but it was back in 2004, I think. And so we just had a process. You know, it would start with the president of the parks, and it would go to the EVP of marketing. It would go to, you know, me to get the word out to, you know, our media partners and that sort of thing. And we just had a way of knowing how we were going to get out of the media, how we were going to get back in. I think other companies would benefit also. Just know, you know, even from a core value standpoint. So A, be prepared, have a plan in place, and then from a core value standpoint, what do you stand for and how are you going to, you know, I think the companies that handle really the worst tragedies the best are the ones that, you know, just kind of take it on, head on. Own it and, you know, and make true amends to make it better. And I think that authenticity, when it's done that way, shines through or comes through, and consumers will forgive you for it. I think it's when it's almost like the cover-up is worse than the crime in some fashion, that's when your brands get in trouble.
Yeah, so you and I both mentioned hurricanes. People may not know that we're filming in Orlando. So we were at Iron Pixel Studios, which is this phenomenal studio with a phenomenal crew, and I'm incredibly lucky. But hurricanes aren't the only crises. And there was a gentleman that I worked with named Dave at Bank One/Chase, and he's one of the people who specializes in like crisis marketing, crisis communication, and even to the extent of helping businesses map out their entire communication strategy and then running drills to presuppose what that crisis is and making sure that every touch point end to end is solid, because
that's right.
It not everybody thinks well on their toes. So,
exactly.
It's good to have a plan.
It's great to have a plan, and the cruise lines do it too. And I will tell you, they run complete scenarios. They'll take a day with not just the executives, but everybody that's on the crisis team, and they will run the iterations, and they will run the kind of the,
it's a drill.
Almost like a live drill, if you will, and everybody has to respond and react and push out messaging as if this were occurring, and it's just a way of drilling in, because you don't want to have to respond the first time, the real time.
Correct. And you've got thousands and thousands of customers and guests that are relying upon specific communication at the right time. The evolution of cruise industry and competitive positioning. So what do you think are some of the key learnings that businesses can apply? So maybe take, for instance, your approach to positioning Princess Cruises versus their competitors.
Yeah, we talked in the last show we did together about the importance of understanding the consumer, understanding your own brand and what your strengths are and are not, and then mapping that against the competition. So this is really that third part. It's about mapping against the competition, and it's I think it's you have to be really honest with yourself as to what do you really offer and what do you not offer, and allow that to, in effect, there's many ways to segment the market, but at least vis-a-vis your competition, understand what are the dynamics or the axes, if you will, that the competition kind of sits around to fill different needs. And if you're honest with yourself, map that out, and you'll get a sense of where you plot against the others. And that may, and probably should, inform your strategy to a good degree. And it did for us at Princess, because we knew where we wanted to be, and we knew what we were and we knew what we weren't.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my Butler Branding Bootcamp process, I start with the competitive landscape. So you basically take the 4 quadrants and figure out where do you want to sit, where are your competitors, where's the white space, right? And by the way, that alone is a very difficult exercise for most people to get their brains around, because where they want to be and where they are today may be in different places, and how do you create the evolution for the brand to grow and get there, and the strategies to take you there?
Well, the first part is maybe the hardest part, which is being exceedingly honest with yourself.
Self-reflection.
And it's hard, because you all want to believe a little bit something different about your brand than maybe the consumer is actually saying. And so you got to be exceedingly honest, and then it's not always easy. It's to define those axes. We all look at the
the X and the Y. You sit there with a blank sheet of paper, just going, I don't really know what to put on the far ends.
You can put a lot of different things in it. A lot of times you have to kind of play with that a little bit to be like, all right, I think this captures what I see out there, and it's not the only mapping of it, but maybe it's the mapping that allows an informed strategy for you to proceed.
Yes, and I think that depending upon what you put on the X and Y axes will then dramatically shift where your brand goes and your marketing strategies, depending on what we choose.
Exactly. And you could choose different things, and it may muddy the picture or clarify the picture. So you kind of have to play around with it a little bit.
Yeah, you do, absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the Yellow Shoes team before. Explain for people who maybe didn't see the first show. You managed a very, very large in-house agency at Disney. What do you think are the biggest challenges, and what do you think the biggest advantages were to having that breadth and depth of a team versus companies who may not want to build the in-house agency and instead look to external agencies?
Right. So, I think a little bit referencing what we'd said before, just for context, I think what an in-house agency can do for you is they're steeped in your brand more than any external agency ever could be, and they're generally fairly quick to respond. So maybe they're a little bit quicker turnaround. What the external agency gives you is a little bit of distance, which means inherently they may not be as close to your brand, but it means they also bring a little bit more perspective.
Yeah.
So that's very, very helpful. The other thing, and it's tough, you kind of have to look, when you're financially kind of looking at, do I want to build this in-house agency?
That is a legitimate consideration.
You're bringing people on the books, you're bringing people on payroll that are there all the time,
Yep.
Whether you're going to keep them busy or not. Whereas with an external agency, you can size up or size down that scope of work depending on your needs. So for a lot of companies, they would not necessarily benefit from. Disney had a full-on in-house agency. I mean, we had really
Hundreds.
It was 150 people.
Yeah.
And a lot of different disciplines and sub-disciplines and expertise was represented. But we were cranking out so much content that it made sense. But for a lot of companies, that may not be the right answer. So an external agency may be more the way to go. And at Disney, just to be fair, we used a blend of both because we also enjoyed having that external perspective. One of the other challenges, besides financially affording it, is one of the challenges with going into it with an external agency is just really getting them to deeply understand your brand.
Right. And then honestly, the availability sometimes for them, right? When you have in-house people, you know that they're available and you can manage their bandwidth. When it's an external agency, you may not always have, you're not their only client. Let's face it.
You're not their only client. But even with the in-house agency, if you're busy enough, you've got to manage that workload.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All the same. So it comes with a lot of challenges.
I also think that with an in-house agency, so looking back at my time at Chase, my last few years, I worked in the marketing growth and innovation team, which was a really long explanation for a marketing center of excellence.
Right.
But having a team of 100 people who are managing the paid, owned, and earned channels and having that plan of test, learn, optimize, test with the proprietary brands, leverage those learnings for the partners, et cetera, you had this constant learning and people educating themselves and figuring out what works, especially in direct response marketing. If I put a button here and I add another button here, what's the lift that I'm going to get? And what's the sequencing of direct mail and email? And I feel like that's one of the benefits of having a center of excellence or an in-house agency team is that you also have the benefit of all of those learnings, and you can also direct the sort of short, medium, and long-term plan on what do I want to learn and how will that inform my future year marketing plans?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like there becomes a bit of a playbook that they inherently understand, and you don't have to reteach it every time.
And it's not the short-term campaign.
Exactly.
I'm managing
You're
the
doing
long
something
game.
for the long game.
Yeah.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
The other challenge I was going to bring up is recruiting in-house, because the more you get into a creative discipline, the more they want to be, attached to the big agencies doing the big work out of the big markets and that sort of thing. And so bringing them in and trying to recruit them into an in-house function that can be challenging as well.
Yeah. All right, so enjoy your Basil Hayden. I'm going to thank our incredible sponsors, D3 Brewing Company. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. So they make Benny's Brew, Midnight Pumpkin, which is seasonal, Three Wishes, which is a hazy IPA, Retired Rides, which is a West Coast IPA, phenomenal craft beers, and they really understand the importance about what Jeff and I have been talking about creating connections with guests and your consumers and crafting something unforgettable. So whether you're toasting to a big idea, celebrating a small win, or savoring just a moment of inspiration, D3 Brewing Company has the perfect pour for every occasion. And with every sip, you're not just enjoying an excellent brew, you're actually part of a story about loyalty, fun, and bringing people together, which is part of Club D3. So cheers to great beer, great conversations, and the magic of D3 Brewing Company. So drinks up. All right, that was your break. And here you go. Golf Channel.
Yes.
So you spent some time at the Golf Channel. Tell me about driving member growth and digital engagement, because that was back in the day, right? Sort of the early digital marketing days.
Yeah, not super early, but I helped launch Golf Pass, and we had to get people re-engaged with Golf Now. So Golf Pass was a new product, digital product, that was kind of an all-encompassing product around golf. So if you're really into golf, it was a place where you could learn, you could shop, you could track your game. There's just so much you could do on Golf Pass. And on Golf Now was basically a tee time booking engine. Now that was included actually in Golf Pass as well. So, but my lessons out of that was, understand where you are in the consumer journey and what needs to happen. And then, craft your messaging accordingly. So Golf Pass, nobody understood what it was. And so what we needed to do was inundate people with the messaging. And of course, we had the benefit of being associated with Golf Channel. So we were on, we put our advertising out on Golf Channel and that sort of thing on the broadcast. But the other thing we did was we looked for promotions and marketing that highlighted each of the different pillars, if you will.
Yep.
So we did, that was Golf Pass. Golf Now was much more about, it had been around a little longer, but how do we add users to that experience? And so the challenge there was we were already tapping into the Golf Channel viewer audience. So how do we get beyond that?
Right,
so
exactly.
It was lookalike audiences and retargeting audiences, and so it was a lot more data-driven database work that was there to not only leverage and get people that were aware of Golf Now to start using it, but also to find people that weren't aware outside of the Golf Channel viewing audience, and how can we drive into that audience and get be relevant to them.
Absolutely.
So,
and partners can be a component of that, right?
Oh,
so
huge,
if you partner
partner
with a brand, you're basically tapping into their audience,
right?
Essentially creating a brand new distribution channel, which is difficult to do after a while. You sort of run out of channels. Exactly.
So we were leveraging, for instance, at the time, and I don't know where they're at today, but we were leveraging TaylorMade. We had an equipment sponsorship and partnership with TaylorMade, so we were leveraging them. Rory was very involved, Rory McIlroy, so we had Rory involved. So we had a sweepstakes where if Rory were to win a tournament, and he won a lot that year, we gave away benefits to our member base.
Nice.
We were also doing big promotions to send people to basically a camp where they could see all of the new TaylorMade equipment, and they could meet all the different stars that were the golf pros that were using TaylorMade. And so it was quite a promotion, and it was meaningful to people.
Amazing. And you're a big golf fan, right? You're actually an exceptional golfer.
I don't know.
So you're like, hey, every day's Christmas.
Every day's Christmas, exactly. And exceptional is in the eye of the beholder.
Disneyland. So when we talked before, I mentioned that I wanted to dive into the 60th anniversary of Disneyland, which was a remarkable campaign. So talk about the Diamond Celebration, and also if you can share with people. Well, actually, no, I'll save that for a hot second. So talk about the Diamond Celebration and how do you market a destination like Disneyland that people have been to before, in a way that keeps it fresh for maybe the first time person, but especially fresh for the repeat person.
Right. Yeah. So, it's about finding that hook or that angle in that puts a little top spin on it. They love a lot of them understand or love the core experience, but how are you going to dress it up a little bit for the occasion?
Yep.
Well, anyways,
it's diamonds.
To your diamonds. Well, there's story behind that.
Me, Jeff.
Check.
Exactly.
All right, we got Sheila.
Does it sparkle?
We need about 3 million more. But no, in all seriousness, that it's actually an interesting story. I'm pretty proud of it because we were probably 2 years in, maybe a year and a half in, to having relaunched Disney California Adventure and the launch of Cars Land and all of that. And generally, Disney would look for new news every year. Mm-hmm. But that was an enormous campaign with enormous investment, not just a marketing investment, but the investment in the infrastructure. Right. WDI team came in and recreated the whole Disney California Adventure
We can't do that every year, people.
We can't do that every year. I felt, as a marketing person, I got to at least get 3 years out of this news. But we were into it, and it was a success. But I remember thinking to myself, on the back end of that, we had some new news plotted. We have 5 and 10 year capital plans, and so I was looking out at the capital plan that was going to come after that, and that capital plan got pushed out. So we no longer had the new news coming on the back end of this.
Now we have to create news.
So I felt like we had to create our own news, and so I was looking at the calendar, and it was Disneyland's 60th anniversary was going to come in, about another year and a half.
55. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so we were coming into that piece of news, and so I went up to our president and I said, I think we ought to look at this, and he agreed, and I paired up with a WDI person. The problem was that not everybody thought that was a good idea. They were like, 60th anniversary, and especially, we were operating as really one big organization. So there are Walt Disney World people involved.
This was the One Disney era?
Yes.
Okay, whereas World and Land.
World and Land kind of working together, but I was running Disneyland at the time. I, of course, knew intimately all the people at World as well. But they all looked at me like I'd grown a third head because they were like, 60th? Nobody cares about a 60th anniversary. In fact, first of all, at Walt Disney World, we had a 40th, and we didn't do a lot for that because nobody cares. Yeah.
Well, that is also. But you also don't want to age yourself and say we're 40, we're 60.
And that was the other thing. They were like, and it just sounds old. It doesn't sound like a milestone. It just sounds old. So you take the feedback, but we put a little top spin on it. I said, well, we're not going to call it the 60th because we'll refer to it, but what 60 stands for is diamonds. Well, and in fairness, so does 75. So God bless the person that has it on 75. I took it for 60. But we took the diamond and we used that to thematically, so we created a diamond celebration.
Okay. So it's
and
sparkly
we'd reference the fact that that was because it was Disneyland's 60th anniversary. But we leveraged diamonds and all the spectacularness of that, and we had diamond giveaways, and we did a top dressing. The castle was done as a with a diamond overlay. We created a new parade, and some entertainment, and then some buntings and banners and this, that, and another thing.
Merch and you've got a campaign.
And you've got something, and so anyways, it was phenomenally successful. We were driving growth off of what we did with the relaunch of Disney California Adventure. That was a huge profit driver for us because it was a very underutilized asset that now we were able to fully leverage. And then we took the Diamond Celebration and we just logarithmically added growth on top of that.
Amazing. So one of the things that you and I haven't touched on, but I think about, actually I joke about this. When I have a birthday, some people say like, oh, I didn't really celebrate birthdays. And some people may celebrate for the week or for the month. And I joke, back in the day when we were in Disney marketing, Walt Disney World, we would celebrate something for 18 months.
That's right.
So I at least get a month for my birthday, right?
Oh, for sure.
Do you remember back in the day how, and I don't know if you do or not, but I feel like there were like thirds. It was sort of like the pre-announcement of something coming, and then like we're in the event, and specifically for when the castle was a birthday cake and it was pink. I distinctly recall there was something about before we blow the candles out, which was the sort of like reminder of this is the end of the campaign. If you haven't had a chance or if you want to come back again. And that was probably the 25th anniversary.
That was
maybe?
the 25th anniversary, right, for Walt Disney World.
Have you used that methodology of this sort of pre and in and then sort of last chance
Absolutely.
strategy? Yeah.
Right.
How do you think brands could apply it? Because I actually don't see that done a lot. But when you put in money for a huge campaign, don't you want to sort of create the sections and get your money's worth?
You do. And okay, so the reason behind Disney going 18 months was, a couple of reasons. They're pretty logical. One, it's a big investment.
Absolutely.
To dress the park, create the entertainment and the product to put into it. Secondly, if you're going to create that investment, you want to get a couple seasons out of that. So summer is, there's a lot of key seasons, but you want to get a couple summers out of that. So generally we would start something before summer, number one, if you will.
It was like preseason. And then October 1st, right?
Right, and then you'd have your, so you're
really kicking it off.
And then you let that ride for a while, and then you do your last chance messaging before you get out. And some of that becomes worthwhile because if you're going to run something for 18 months, the last thing you want is for consumers that may, do a more robust repeat cycle with your brand. You don't want them to tire of it and not come back. So you want to always kind of have a little bit of new news you can throw at them. And so it starts with the news itself. Then there's kind of the core of it all, and maybe you've added something else now because it's the actual anniversary, and so you add an element of it. And then as you're getting close to the end, it's like, well, don't miss this. It's your last chance.
Exactly.
And so companies can benefit by that, especially if they're running something over a longer period of time. It's like, hold a little bit of news back and then just kind of bring it out so that people have a reason to re-engage with you.
Right, exactly. I think that's where you tailor the message, right? The
Absolutely.
right message at the right time.
Yep.
Absolutely, in a different way.
We're taking a quick bourbon break, so while glasses are refilled, let's talk about something as important as a good pour, your marketing. I'm the founder of Butler Marketing Group, and we help businesses, small, medium, and Fortune 500, navigate growth and transformation with marketing that's strategic, intentional, and built to leave a legacy. Whether you need branding, marketing strategy, loyalty, or a fractional chief marketing officer, we've got the perfect blend of services for your business. Contact Butler MG to get started. Now, back to the show.
The intersection of brand and experience design. So how do you align the marketing story with the guest experience and guest expectations?
Well, so from a marketing standpoint, you're always looking at, what is my news? What is my consumer value? How do I want to position that news to them? Now, of course, you've got an operating team at the parks that have to weigh in on this as well because they actually have to deliver.
Right,
in fact,
exactly. Thanks for the brand promise.
Exactly. In
Jeff,
fact,
now we have to go do that.
That's That's very close to what a really good friend of mine, who became a really good friend of mine, but key operator and operations leader at Disneyland. We walked out of a meeting once, and I'll never forget. He looked at me and he said, marketing guy.
It's always the marketing.
I know.
We're always the marketing.
Marketing guy. Know this. You make the promises. We have to keep them.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've never forgotten that.
It's true.
And you know what my response was to him? I said, it's a pleasure working for a brand that can keep big promises.
Yeah.
And I meant it.
And that's the importance of everyone working together, right?
Yeah,
to bring everybody to the table.
They would keep those promises.
Yes.
But we had to be careful to make sure that our marketing campaigns, depending on how we would pull the triggers, what we would do, they would have an impact on guest flow and guest expectations and different things. And so we had to work very closely with industrial engineering, marketing, WDI, and other teams to make sure that what we were promising, we could actually deliver to that consumer.
Right. One, that you're promising it, that people understand the promise, and then you're delivering on that, and that it's seamless. Right. And that it's magic. I had left Disney by the time this happened, but were you around, and I'm trying to remember the name of the campaign, was it A Year of a Million Dreams or something? Was that the right name of the campaign?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So when I think about brand promises, and I think about my time in financial services, any marketing claim that we made had to be validated, especially in the highly regulated industry of financial services. So if I said you earn 5 points per dollar spent at a hotel, I had to then show legal and compliance, this is the technology, and it says if someone spent this money, this is how many points they get. Tell me about, if you recall, I can't imagine how the attorneys felt about reading through a list of a million dreams, because that is a marketing claim that you're making, and you actually did have to document
We did.
a million things that you were going to do to guests and come up with those ideas. And they were some things like really out of there. In fact, Lee Kitchen was here and we talked about the suite in Cinderella's castle and how for years, or Cinderella castle, how for years people said that can't be done. And that might have been the campaign when that launched. But can you think about a time around thinking about building out the marketing claims and how do you deliver on that, whether it's A Year of a Million Dreams or something else?
Yeah, no, you work, again, kind of like the last thing, the story I was talking about, keeping promises, making promises, keeping promises, that sort of thing. It's no different than, when you're engaging the legal team, or in this case, the legal team and the operations team and the WDI team, because the kind of premier, dream was to be able to spend a night in Cinderella's castle. But it wasn't designed for that at the time. So it had to be built out. It had to be, and so it was and so we continued to use it after the campaign was over. Yeah. But we had to work with WDI and the operators, and then there was a whole thing about, guests staying into the park after closing and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, you can't roam around the park as a guest.
So all of that stuff had to be.
You're in the castle, but you were not out of the castle. You were in the castle.
So we did all of that with our partners. You just worked. I mean, Disney was a very collaborative company, and take that as you will. I actually find that to be a positive, but it could slow things down too, because you really had to consider all the effects.
It's thoughtful.
It was a very thoughtful company, and so we spent a lot of time, kind of working through, because we would have big dreams like that, big hooks that we could pull that we knew would be super meaningful, super engaging to the consumer. But you had to work with your operators, you had to work with legal and everybody else. Yeah. And then, so there were a million dreams, but how those things work is like, there's 3 of these, there's a daily this, there's a that, and you start adding up, and then there's a lot of these kind of things. And so, but yes, we had to document them, and believe it or not, I'm still good friends with our legal team to this day.
And it's still longer than a CVS receipt.
Exactly.
Which is hard for people to say. All right, when it comes to pivoting versus staying the course in marketing, so there are many, many different trends. There's AI, there's TikTok, which has actually been around for a little bit, influencer marketing, et cetera, et cetera. How, as a marketing strategist, do you coach your team or make decisions based upon staying the course versus pivoting? And when do you know? Because it feels like a gut thing.
Yeah.
With a lot of data.
Yeah, and obviously informed by a lot of data. So first of all, I think as marketers, and it's becoming a tougher and tougher challenge this, in this day and age, as things are so rapidly transforming and platforms are being added every single day, and there's new ways to reach your consumers, and if you don't pay attention to those and stay on top of those, you're going to fall behind.
Correct.
But not every platform is right for you, or not every innovation is right for your marketing campaigns necessarily. I I was actually in a group once. It was kind of a non-compete heads of marketing group. And so I'll credit this to somebody else, but I always took it away. I thought it was a brilliant way to approach how you think about being innovative and testing things and that sort of. And the approach that was outlined was, they called it 70-20-10. I'll explain it as 70-10-20.
Okay.
It still adds up to 100. And that was to take your marketing budget and put 70% of it into the stuff that you knew. It was your bread and butter.
Right.
It was the channels
It
you knew were
works.
going to
I know how
work.
to leverage this channel.
I know where it's going to go.
Right.
I know what it's going to do for me, et cetera. So 70% of your budget you carve out and you do the stuff that you absolutely know is going to work. Then you take 10% of your budget, and it's like, what are the innovative things we should be trying? With no expectation they will necessarily work at all.
Right.
And
It's
so
almost
you
like you're willing to just set money on
You're-
fire just to learn. I'm willing to learn,
Exactly.
and if it burns, it burns. But otherwise, I might learn something.
It's actually one of my favorite sayings. It's like, we could spend money on this, or we could put a pile of money on the table and light it up, and that would be fun to watch that burn.
I know that you did that too. Like, literally, when people say, like, I'm just doing these things, I go, why? And I go, well, someone asked him, like, do you just take your own money and set it on fire? Like, no one would do that of their own money. But
Right.
yes.
So,
anyway, so there you go.
But with no expectations, you try things and you innovate. And then what you look at is you look at the things you tried the year prior and you say, what showed some glimmers of success? What should we kind of double down the bet on?
Right.
And that becomes your 20%. So those become, so they're complete innovation ideas, you put 10% into that, and then the 20% becomes incubators. And you incubate and you find what are the things that can grow, and then as those things grow, then you look at your 70 and you move some of those that really work, that grew into that 20. Now those might fall into your 70 and you make trade-offs out of your 70. And so you kind of clean out the closet a little bit of, all right, well, we don't need to do that so much. We got this that's going to move in, and you continue that cycle of innovate, incubate, and then your base marketing.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's a balance of being data-driven, but also curious.
Exactly.
Right? So that I have a hypothesis, this is what I want to test and I want to learn into, and I'm willing to invest a little bit of money in that.
Right.
And I'm okay if it fail fast.
And exactly. And I think it's really smart of companies to budget that way, because it actually, it's one thing to think like that, but then to put the discipline of a budget behind it.
It makes people a little bit more nervous.
Yeah, but in a way, it's, that's a great practice, because then you'll actually do it.
Absolutely, right. And those are the companies that innovate.
Right.
So you and I have had many clients where we're working directly with the CEO. Mm-hmm. They may not always understand marketing. In fact, I'm surprised actually more and more that they don't necessarily understand the nuances between branding and messaging, and then strategy, and then tactics. What do you think, if you could give advice to CEO clients, prior, current, future, what do you think are the biggest marketing KPIs that they need to understand to really relate to and maximize the use of their marketing team, or even a fractional CMO like you and I?
I would actually flip that around and say, what would you tell the marketer that they need to understand about what the CEO's interest in KPIs are?
Yep.
I don't think it's necessarily the job. I don't think it's our job to make the CEOs understand. I think we have to understand where the CEOs are at and make sure that we tailor our messaging to them. So, for instance, what is and there are probably many things that a CEO is going to be concerned about, but obviously they're concerned about the bottom line, and part of the bottom line is the top line. So everybody can fixate on what the budget is and what we're going to cut, or this, that, or the other thing. But how are you going to spend your money? And are you going to drive sales growth, revenue growth? They're going to want to know. In particular from marketing, how are you going to drive my top line growth? So measures, and there are many of them that fall into that category, but measures along that line. how is my channels or my my funnel or setting me up for success. So CEOs might be of a company of a certain size might be like, well, where are my leads at? But they might also be interested in knowing, well, how is that tracking through? Like
Correct.
how am I converting them, or how am I transitioning them from making it up from a lead to a more qualified lead to actually a conversion, and
Right.
what's that progression? Because seeing that pipeline allows them to do better forecasting and know what's the future of that revenue line now looking like. So there's something there, and I think that CEOs are interested in the well-being of their brand, and probably so something in the line of an overall branding score or measure, as well as maybe depending on the company and that sort of thing, but probably an NPS score.
Yep.
How are we delivering? How's our product
So
delivering?
Net Promoter Score.
Yep, exactly.
People. Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think and there are more. We could go on return on investment of certain marketing activities and that sort of thing, but I think those are kind of some of the core metrics. And I think that it's imperative for marketers to understand that that's where the CEO's head is at. And so how do you take your message and now speak the CEO's language as opposed to trying to make the CEO a marketing expert?
Yes. It's interesting. R.K. Kelly was here, and we were talking about tailoring the message for the audience and the executive that you're speaking to. And if you're pitching to a very creative CEO, then you lead with that, right? Because that's what they're listening for. If it's someone who's very much more so grown up through the finance ranks and they're very much data driven, then you got to lean into that, regardless of what story you want to tell. But you need to set it up for the leader themselves to help them understand.
Right.
Yeah.
So not unlike the work we actually do with consumers, it's like understand your audience and tailor your audience or tailor your message to that audience.
Yep. Perfect. We're going to wrap it up with some standard questions. I know you're here before, so I changed up the questions a bit. Thematically, they're still there.
All right.
But if your advertising approach were a bourbon, what bourbon would it be and why?
So what bourbon would it be? Well, it's because there's so many good ones. And we're enjoying Basil Hayden. But I would say that my campaign and my marketing work would be, it would be smooth, it would be beautiful, it would pack a punch,
Okay.
and it would have a nice finish.
Oh, very well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
There'd be some legs to that engagement.
I love that. The first bourbon I ever tried was Maker's Mark. And I joined their ambassador club back in the day, and I don't remember if it's still the case, but you had to have someone nominate you or recommend you into the program. And I joined it because it was a loyalty-based program that had no discounts or whatever, but it was engaging people in the brand itself. And so you would receive this gift in the mail at the end of the year. And one year it was like the red wax and a stamp that you could put on letters and so forth. And another year it was gift wrap and so forth. And I think that there are different brands that sort of evoke that. How do we promote our brand in a way that engages people? So,
and you know what I love about that is they're engaging you with the brand. It's not just, here's a discount.
correct. Yes.
It's,
to where you become emotionally invested. That's the
These
whole
are-
point. It's like an
exactly.
ambassador program for you to
Exactly.
be an ambassador of
right.
the brand.
Yeah. Grow that engagement.
So first Disney experience. So you talked before about watching your 2-year-old and engage with the princesses in a parade. So if you could think back on another Disney moment that you would want to really experience for the first time, it could be you with your family, you younger, you in your professional career, what would it be?
I'll give you a moment that I never had
Okay.
that I would love, and because I just experienced it differently. I had been, as a young child, I'd been to Disneyland. I mean, I have just very few memories, but a couple memories from Disneyland. But I had never been to Walt Disney World. We didn't go there as a family when I was growing up. So the first time I experienced Walt Disney World, the first time I came into Walt Disney World, I came up through the tunnels into the middle of it all.
Oh my goodness! So you were a cast member.
I was a cast member. I never came through the gate for the first time.
Can you explain to people, because they may or may not know, the tunnel system is the Utilidor, right? Underneath the Magic Kingdom. It's an entire city.
It's an entire infrastructure city underneath that supports. So actually the Magic Kingdom, as you would know it, is built, it's kind of the second floor, if you want to say. All the supporting work is underneath. And it was done that way intentionally to better be able to service the parks. You know, Walt lived and learned as he grew his parks. And so the tunnel system, I came through a tour of the tunnels and popped up into the middle of it all from the tunnels, as opposed to coming through the front gate for the very first time. So obviously I've been through the front gate of Walt Disney World a million times since, but I never came through the first time. So you would want
to see that again, popping up like that?
No, I would like to. I would like to actually come through, have my first experience, and be able to see, have that wow moment of coming through the gate for the very first time.
All right, very good answer. Okay, I'm very intrigued. All right, so the next thing for you is from a previous guest, and I'm trying to remember. It might have been Rob Malden, but it might have been R.K. Kelly. Tell me about a time in your career when it went wrong. You were either implementing a new strategy, a project, a tactic, or something. But what happened? How did you react? What did you do?
So first of all, give me the name, because thank you for that question.
Well, I think for the first time that someone said that, I was like, pick a failure, any failure. I have so many.
Yeah, exactly.
How much time do we have?
Exactly. Thrilled. So we were launching, I think this becomes a fun story. We were launching Disney's Animal Kingdom. And some of the, and we actually did, working with our agency, Leo Burnett at the time, we did a very spectacular commercial. But at the end, as we were starting to learn why people were choosing or not choosing to go to Animal Kingdom, we were learning that a lot of people were saying, when I have to make choices, I understand that Animal Kingdom is probably fabulous, but it would remind me of maybe a zoo. Maybe it'd be a Disney zoo, so it'd be a great zoo, but it's kind of a zoo.
I feel like this is not a zoo.
Yeah, don't go there. Yeah, right? Exactly. So they felt like, as you were listening to the consumers, their reaction was, I can see a zoo at home. And so we looked at it and was like, well, there's so much more to it. It's really not like a zoo at all. Right. So we did this campaign, and the way it worked out, and we played it out blind for people. So if they had never seen it before, they were being greeted to Animal Kingdom by these greeters, and every greeter that met you along your path as you were we were showcasing the experience, they would say, not a zoo.
Exactly, right,
not
Jumbo, welcome, right, but not
exactly.
a zoo.
Not a zoo.
Exactly.
And consumers are like, zoo. What are they talking about? What are they doing? And at the very end, we hit them with the line of, because Disney's Animal Kingdom, it is many, many things, but the one thing it's not. And then we turned, and the entire cast of Animal Kingdom was there, and they all said it in unison, not a zoo.
And so that was a failure, do you think?
No, the failure was that we hadn't communicated properly in the beginning that Animal Kingdom was so much more. We tried, but it wasn't busting through to consumers. Yeah. And so our guests had to understand that it was more than that. And in fact, before we could get past what is it, we had to explain what isn't it. So we were trying to showcase the experience of what it is while telling them it is not a zoo.
Brand messaging is everything. All right, so we got to wrap this puppy up. Future guest, what do you want me to ask them from you? So
the world of marketing has just, and really the world of business has changed in so many ways. With not just all the digital work that has been going on now for a little bit of time, but now with AI and everything else. So I'd be interested to get their perspective on what does that mean? What are the biggest opportunities that are out there? And what do they see as the risks?
Okay. All right. I love it. I will ask. Okay.
Terrific.
So, Jeff, we're going to wrap this up. I'm so grateful that you came back again. And,
Thank you for having me.
Your insights are incredible. This conversation has been wonderful. I hope that people can take a lot from what we've shared, our lessons learned. Your expertise and your perspective is incredibly valuable for people to elevate their marketing and their marketing strategies. I also want to thank the D3 Brewing folks. Thank you again for your support of the show. And I'm excited to see about the next fine craft beers coming out because they're always inventing something fantastic. And then for everyone watching, I hope that you found this conversation has brought you new ways of thinking about marketing strategies, engaging customers, utilizing data, and the evolving role of brand in storytelling. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to Marketing Over Bourbon. And remember, the best ideas often come when you take a moment to savor something great. So drinks up, Kungaloosh. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
How'd we do? And so I saw the 10. I saw